It's always easy to say players that you really believe in or that you think are good values, but it's much harder to bring a list of players that you're avoiding. Ooh. And today we are bringing you 4 players that we want you to stop drafting, or we would advise you to stop drafting in fantasy this year. We're going to tell you why. So some of these might be controversial, some of them might be obvious, but let's walk through it together. Which I think might be controversial, my first one is Nick Chubb. I do not want to draft Nick Chubb, and I think we should probably stop drafting him at his current ADP, which is RB9 according to Fantasy Pros, underdog RB14, which makes a lot more sense, based off of the best ball format. My ranking, he is currently my running back 14, excuse me. Firstly, let me start by saying Nick Chubb is an elite NFL running back. However, I don't want him for fantasy this year, okay? He can be a very, very good NFL running back, like top 5, top 3, and still be someone that I don't want to target in fantasy. It's all based off value at their ADP. Let's talk about how long will Deshaun Watson be out for, okay? And what will that saga do to this team? Is it going to bring them together? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. What kind of offense are we going to see? If it truly is a year, which doesn't look like the NFL is holding back right now, they really want it to be a year. If it is a year, what will this offense look like? And what can Jacoby Brissett do for this team? Maybe it's a 1-year suspension. Maybe it's 6. Maybe it's 10 games. But until Deshaun Watson is there, you're going to see a very limited upside for Nick Chubb on a weekly basis. And more importantly is what I'm about to talk about now, which is his lack of work through the air. Like, this is the most important thing that I want to talk about. We play in PPR. If you play in standard, different conversation. Draft Nick Chubb wherever you want him to, okay? But let's talk about the lack of work he has had through the air. The last 2 years, Nick Chubb in 2020 had 16 receptions, 1.5 targets a game. 1.5 targets a game. In 2021, 20 receptions, 1.7 targets per game. Yeah. All right. He's averaging 1.6. Check this out. Averaging 1.6 points per game through the air. That's it. Okay. Over the last 2 years. Again, in NFL running back, wise, he's elite. Yeah. But fantasy, it's not what I'm looking for. And just walk with me here for a second. Let's think about this. Okay. Like I said, last year, Nick Chubb, he was absolutely dominant. Nick Chubb probably had the second best overall running back season, of anyone. Okay.
Right.
Second in rushing yards. So second in rushing yards, 8th in rushing attempts, 10th in rushing touchdowns, excuse me. You take the top 40 fantasy running backs last year, okay? Put them in a group, the top 40 finishing fantasy running backs last year. He had the second best yards per carry amongst them. Only Jonathan Taylor had a higher yards per carry, and it was only by decimals. Yet, he only finished RB13. You're telling me he had one of the best NFL seasons for a running back, but I'm getting the RB13? We're talking about elite season for him. That's what it was last year, in RB13. Yeah. In points per game, he was 12th. So if you're going to say finish 13 points per game, he was 12th. I mean, Kareem Hunt missed 9 games, and Chubb still didn't have a significant role in the air. What has to happen for that to ever come to fruition? I'm not sure that it will, right? In points per game, he finished closer to Josh Jacobs and Antonio Gibson and Damian Harris than he did to Alvin, Najee, and Leonard Fournette. Point being, there are running backs in this range that have much higher upsides. Javonte Williams in that offense, who already had more than Chubb's ever had in the air in his rookie season. Aaron Jones, PPR monster, Swift, Fournette, Saquon Barkley. Again, incredible player Nick Chubb is, but I don't want to draft him at his current ADP. I feel like I'm limiting the upside of my team. And again, second in rushing, RB13. What does he have to do to finish, as a top 5 running back? I think he has to be 15 touchdowns on the ground because he's not getting any work through the air. Yeah. I don't know if that happens. So Nick Chubb is someone I just prefer to go elsewhere when I view him on the board. His ADP just doesn't entice me, and I don't have him in really any leagues at the moment.
Yeah, Nick Chubb is definitely a very interesting character coming into this season. I'm there with you. I think this team or Nick Chubb can only be productive if Deshaun Watson's on the field, if or when Deshaun Watson's on the field. So I'm right there with you with Nick Chubb. My first player to avoid, and I think this has been the talk of the town, and I want to bring my perspective on this as well, is Antonio Gibson. If you know me, I've always been kind of, when Brian Robinson came in, I've always been off Antonio Gibson. The community, I feel like, has been split. Like, well, it's Antonio Gibson. And I've always still been on the side of, I don't want anything of Antonio Gibson. Currently going at RB25 according to Fantasy Pros. According to Fantasy Pros, he's RB20. Underdog, he's RB25. For me right now, he's my RB26. But when I was writing this up, looking at this, I think he can go even further down. And that may sound crazy because now he's in a jumbled backfield, you know? So I wanted to bring you my points that I actually bought a long time ago. I think it was in like April or May, and how I felt like this offense was going to be a three-way split, right? I said 45% Gibson, 40% Robinson, and 50% J.D. McKissic. I actually think is going to be even more even. I actually think it will probably be evenly split now, you know, with Antonio Gibson, James Robinson, and J.D. McKissic, just based off that first preseason game. And I know it's really early. I know, hey, it happens. You know, somebody makes mistakes. Somebody looks better in preseason. That's what rookies do. You know, they have to show out. But the first thing that happens is that Antonio Gibson fumbles the ball. What is the one thing that Antonio Gibson has struggled with his whole career? Is holding on to the ball. And I do not see a pathway, in my opinion, where Antonio Gibson can come back and get a 60% workload now. You know, like, I'm struggling for me to even see him get a 50% workload. Once again, I do see this as a three-way split with Gibson, Robinson, and J.D. McKissic. And now when I look at my rankings and when I'm going through all these guys that are in a running back by committee, or a guy that are teams that we just don't like to take, you know, running backs on. A lot of people are off on Clyde and the Chiefs. A lot of people are off on Damian Harris and the Patriots backfield. Is Antonio Gibson upside any higher than those guys now? Like, I don't know if I can say with confidence yes for the community. Like, yes, you know what? I'm here to say I'm really confident taking Clyde, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, you know, Ken Walker, James Cook, Kareem Hunt. I don't know if I'm confident enough to say I'm happy to take Antonio Gibson over those guys. And I'm still struggling in my rankings to see if I should be taking him over these guys. But right now, I think you guys should completely avoid him. It's pretty clear Brian Robinson, is he a more talented running back than Antonio Gibson as a prospect, a talent as a whole? No. Is Brian Robinson what the Washington Commanders need right now? I think so. We just need a guy that can get 5 yards, a really strong, you know, a bulldozer, pounded in between the lines guy. And I think that is exactly what Ron Rivera and the Washington Commanders did here. Antonio Gibson could be a good pass catching back or a good, you know, reliever back somehow, but I think I'm moving forward. Like, I don't know if I want any. Not even if he falls to me at a good. That's the thing. If he falls in the 7th, 8th round, once again, are you confident saying, as a Washington fan, this is just a genuine question, because I know a lot of people like to hear your opinion. And I know you probably want to say it. Are you confident saying, you know, I'm happy to take Antonio Gibson over a Ken Walker that's out there in the 7th or 8th round? Am I happy to take a Damian Harris or Ramondre Stevenson? I think it's really tough right now for the fantasy community to say,
sure,
hey, you know, like, I can do this. We should do this.
Well, I think his current ADP isn't reflective of what it's going to end up being. I think he's going to I think if you look at any running back who was smashed the most in the public eye this last week, I think Gibson was like number one on the list. So I do imagine his ADP, both in Underdog and Fantasy Pros, like regular redraft leagues, it's going to plummet. And I do think there could be a point where he does become a value. You know, if he is going down like towards the Ramondres, the Damian areas, I think I do have confidence to take him, because I don't think he's completely out of this backfield. I think he probably still gets the most touches overall, but it's going to be very close. I don't think it's very much a full-blown three-way, like I said in one of our videos the other day. So
yeah, and I think
at some point it could become a value, but you have to wait until that point. Like, you can't take him at his current ADP.
And I think that's the hard part. When you look at these other backfields and these guys in that sweet spot, I even think of people like Melvin in a running back by committee with Melvin Javonte. I think of Damian Damian and Marlon Mack. I think of Michael Carter. Like, is he going to fall there? Cordero Patterson. Like, I know Antonio Gibson is talent, as talented or maybe as more talented as some of these guys I just named, but I don't know if he's going to get the production. So once again, it is really early. I do believe, like Zach said, is a full-blown three-way. I don't know if I want to take any part of it. He's currently my RB26. I can see him going to like my 30s in the next week or two, 30, 31, 32 area. So if I was you, I would be avoiding Antonio Gibson. And I mean, the ADP right now, you're right, it's not reflective. People going after him, Miles Sanders, Tony Pollard, Devin Singletary, Melvin, Kareem Hunt, Clyde, Stevenson, all these guys. So I'm happy to pass on Antonio Gibson.
Sure. No, I agree with his current ADP. Let's see if it becomes a value, but I definitely agree at the moment for sure. All right. I'm avoiding Cam Akers. I don't want to draft Cam Akers. And right now he's RB18 according to Fantasy Pros, RB19, over on Underdog. He's my RB22. And, I could talk about the injury. It's very well documented at this point, my concerns about the Achilles injury, and he will have to break a trend of history, right? But that's not really what I want to talk about so much. I said this before, but I don't know that, like, people keep comparing Cam Akers and Todd Gurley. Sean's had a workhorse running back before. Look at Todd Gurley. Well, Cam Akers isn't Todd Gurley. And he's never been that type of talent. Like, he's been a very talented running back, but he's never been the Todd Gurley complete workhorse type talent. Okay. And if you look at the backfield splits on this team for the last couple of years, there's not really been a solidified Todd Gurley role. And I think a lot of us are placing Cam Akers into that category as if it's just going to happen. And I don't believe that it is. You look at the percentage of the offense's carries in 2021, Sony Michel had 49%, and Darrell Henderson had 35%. How about 2020? Cam Akers, 30%, Henderson, 29%, Malcolm Brown, 21%. I know that was Cam Akers' rookie season, but, Cam isn't just going to be given the keys to this backfield, like Todd Gurley was. I think the way that the modern day NFL is approaching it, it's not by one player alone. It's very much players who are in a rotation. And personally, I don't think it's crazy to say that Darrell Henderson could get 40% of this workload. Like, I think that's probably expected. And not only did I think that, but what did Sean McVay say about the situation? Like, his thoughts on Henderson, he was quoted to have said, "I think we have 2 starting running backs." And by the way, both running backs are running with the first team. Both running backs are running with the ones. Does that sound like Cam Akers is our guy? We're going to work him? Does that sound like that to anyone else? Because it doesn't sound like that to me. And if anyone out there is saying, well, Cam is so young, you want to build around him. I mean, they're only 1 year apart in age. So I don't think youth should really be a factor here. And if you're looking at Cam Akers, he's going as the RB18. Meanwhile, Darrell Henderson is the RB42. I don't understand. I don't understand how there's that big of a gap between Henderson and Cam Akers when Henderson last year, first half of the season, was a top 12 guy. He was already top 12. So you're literally getting it from the head coach. He is literally telling you, this is a split backfield. I don't know what else that people want to maybe avoid Cam Akers here. I think he's going to be great, but so will Darrell Henderson. So it might not be worth drafting Cam Akers that early. Maybe Darrell Henderson is a better value right now. That's how I currently feel.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm a believer in Cam Akers, so hey, we'll got to wait and see. I know a lot of people are saying this could be a running back by committee, and I think I like Cam in the running back by committee, but I don't know. We just got to wait and see. I don't know what this offense looks like with both of these guys in it, but I am a believer in Cam Akers, but I get it. My last person that I do believe you should be avoiding is Cordero Patterson, right? And maybe this could be controversial, maybe not. Current ADP on Fantasy Pros, RB30, Underdog, RB38. He is my RB39. And I do believe there's a lot of recency bias on Cordero Patterson. I think we need to remember he's a 31, 32 years old, a guy that had his first fantasy relevant season of his career this past year. He did finish, top 6 in points. He finished RB9 this past year. But once again, his first relevant fantasy season, I do not know if I want to be leaning on this again. This offense has changed. They take on Marcus Mariota, who is a mobile quarterback. They draft Drake London, and they have Kyle Pitts here. All these guys are going to progress in the second year. All these guys are going to contribute in a different way. They did get Tyler Algier, not saying he's a home run hitter, not saying he's going to be the reason why Cordell Patterson no longer gets touches. But I think now with Drake and Kyle Pitts, with Marcus Mariota as a mobile quarterback, I don't know if we're going to be leaning on Cordell Patterson as much as we did this past year, or that, the past year with Matt Ryan under center. Matt Ryan under center, one of the least mobile quarterback in the NFL, not moving whatsoever. Of course, you're going to hand the ball off more times than none, or dump the ball off to Cordell Patterson and let him make a move. But now you have Marcus Mariota, who, which we saw in preseason, is going to be using his legs a lot. Even if it's not Marcus Mariota and it's Desmond Ridder, we saw him using his legs a lot as well. Okay, I don't believe that the ADP, at least according to Fantasy Pros, RB30. There's a lot of people going above Cordell.
Just on that, by the way, I'm looking, because that shocked me. RB30, that really shocked me. And
his ADP is actually
it looks
28.
like 39 right now is what I'm looking at
on 39 on Fantasy Pros.
39,
maybe.
Yeah.
I guess his average ADP. Maybe let me rephrase that. His average ADP.
But if you take all the averages, like the rank says he's RB39 off the board right now.
Okay, so even then,
I was gonna say RB30 feels high, but RB39 to me feels comfortable.
Yeah, so I guess if that's the case, and maybe I read it wrong, Underdog or Fantasy Pros is 39 and Underdog is 38. My ranking's 39, so I'm there with ADP. Sure. I think I do believe there's more people out there that I would rather still take.
Sure.
Okay. I'm thinking of the guys like the Damian Pierces now that I kind of feel really confident in. I'm thinking of, Ken Walker. I think he's kind of he's in that area as well. You get to these guys like a Michael Carter. How do you feel about, not you specifically, like in the fantasy community, the Ronald Jones? Ronald Jones is different now after everything I've just said about Ronald Jones. But I'm thinking, looking at Cordell Patterson, I think there could be value at times, but I don't think we should be building our team around Cordell Patterson. I don't believe we should be saying, hey, Cordell Patterson finished as a top 10 running back this past year. He was a guy that was averaging 16 points per game. I do not want to say, I don't want to come in with the same confidence as we did this, as we had this past year. Let's remember, he was a waiver wire pickup, and now we're drafting him, above all these guys at Pierce's, near Ken Walker, and some people are taking him a lot higher than that. I don't know if I even want him on my flex. I'll take him as a flyer, as, one of my not last picks, but one of these guys in my RB3, RB4, and I'd rather have more solidified players than a Cordell Patterson, and saying I'm banking on Cordell Patterson to give me these points per game. I think he'll have a very up and down season. I do believe he'll probably still finish decently, 25, 35. I think that's pretty decent for his ADP if it's 38, 39. But I do not want to actively build a team around Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you have to, though, at his ADP. That's where I see it differently. Like, at his ADP, he can be like maybe your fourth running back, and maybe third or fourth.
I've seen people
more if you go RB heavy. So
yeah, I've seen people take him super early, as in like the 6th to 7th round, and we're like, oof. But like, hey, if ADP is changing and ADP is going up and down with Cordell Patterson, I'm definitely would be not off him completely, but once again, I do not want to build like James Cook is going around him, Darrell Henderson, Damian Pierce. These are the guys that I'm looking at when I'm seeing Cordell, Michael Carter, Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, James Robinson is going to be coming back soon. Ken Walker. These are all guys I personally would rather have over Cordell Patterson.
I can respect it for sure.
Yeah,
I can respect it. I love his ADP. I brought him as a value not too long ago. So I personally like his ADP. I like where he's going in drafts, but I can respect the take for sure. I see where you're coming from. Why don't you guys let us know in the comments below where you stand on these players. Are you going to draft them? Are you not drafting them? Let us know.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
now,
it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.